Do men still find their wives sexy after they give birth? What's the best, worst thing about us after having kids? Story number 1. I gained weight during pregnancy, have an 8-month-old, and still have more left to lose. My husband was obsessed with me after giving birth. Still in adult diapers, and he was just so in love with me, all over me even though we couldn't do anything together. I think the hardest thing is getting over the pain the first few times back at it, that in confidence adjusting to a new body, plus 6 weeks or more, can feel like a really long time, and the internet is free, so wandering eyes looking for a release. Did not help with the whole confidence thing. It's improved now, but still isn't quite back to where it used to be. We've given ourselves grace though, as we figure out everything. Story number 2. My hubby has never been able to keep his hands off me even after I gave birth and felt completely unattractive. On the flip side, my best friend's partner left her 3 days after she gave birth. He was in the room and said watching her give birth completely turned him off her and he can't look at her anymore. Common sense says he was probably looking for an excuse to duck out for a while, especially as he hasn't even seen or contacted their son since he left, but that was a horrible thing for her to hear. Story number 3. I have a relative who, while she was in labor, her partner left to go get some food and then didn't return for like 6 hours. He came back in the middle of the night and woke us all up, including her. He literally smooshed her up against one side of the hospital bed and promptly passed out. She apparently checked his phone while he was asleep and saw that he had been texting another woman, and that was where he went for all those hours. A giant tearful argument ensued, with the other family members very confused. Anyway, she kicked him out of the room right as the nurse came in. Nurse said she was fully dilated and it was time to push. He was trying to bully his way back into the room, but the doctor firmly kicked him out. It was terribly sad. Luckily, they haven't been together in years, but they have 2 children together, and he is still a giant pain in her ass. Story number 4. First question, do I find my wife still sexy after they give birth? Hell yes, both our bodies have sagged a bit, but that is called growing old together. Second question. Best thing about having sex after having kids, my wife is a lot less self-conscious as she has been in her room but naked with her legs spread apart, passing a small watermelon through her twat. Third question. Worst thing with kids, the exhaustion, and we can't just go and have sex at all times of the day in any room like we used to, but with everything I would not swap it for the world. As we have 2 great kids and a wonderful wife who I love more and more each day, who I still find as sexy as the day I met her. Story number 5. For a while, after the birth of our first, sex wasn't off the table, but it wasn't going to be that involved of a process. If I went down on her and she came, a good chance of her passing out. If I finished first, she was not able to depend on me being good to go again shortly after. It wasn't like her libido was gone, she wasn't breastfeeding, and she needed to climax to fall asleep, and my libido was still round to despite being sleep-deprived and stressed, and also craved release, so we pivoted from coitus to mutual masturbation. She would use a vibrator, or her preferred way was to hump my leg while I played with her butt and boobs, and she'd have a clitoral orgasm. I would jack myself off, and she'd touch me in ways I liked. Name of the game was finish as fast as possible to get to sleep. If I was more sleepy, not as engaged, she'd still get herself off by humping my leg. I was woken up a couple of times by her humping me. She similarly encouraged me to use her body even if she wasn't super alert. Neither of us was super into somnophilia, but we pivoted into it. Mutual masturbation and cuddle sex mostly because of how exhausted we were. The first time, we had a sitter on a weekend day for most of the day and overnight. She had planned out a romantic outing for us, but while getting ready, she got frisky. We made love a couple of times and then just stayed in bed all day sleeping, occasionally waking up for sex. I had bought tickets for a music show. We never went to that. I didn't get refunded. We had our first when we were both pretty young with very active libidos, even after we got back into a groove of proper lovemaking. We kept the cuddle sex, mutual masturbation in the back pocket for a bonding activity and release because it was a lower effort way of getting off. Story number 6. Finding your wife sexy or attractive is not what hurts a sex life. Having kids causes many couples to put their relationship together on hold and put the kids first. First, they stop having sex as frequently because of time constraints, energy. Then they stop cuddling on the couch to watch a movie because there's not enough time or energy for that. Sex, again, becomes less frequent at this point. After that, date night takes a back seat because of sports, recitals, and being a chauffeur for your kids. At this point, the little things you used to do for each other, back rubs, foot rubs, start to wane. Sex begins to become even less frequent again. It becomes duty sex without a lot of passion that you used to have. This is because your relationship has just really taken a nosedive. Because of small compromises over years, many people are in or will end up in dead bedrooms at this point. The good news is that all of this can be avoided if you have a partner who's willing to put in the effort with you. Cut out time for yourselves daily to be one-on-one. Preferably not at the very end of the day when everyone is exhausted. Talk about everything. Keep doing all the little things your partner likes. Hold hands, scratch their back, make out for no reason, and buy flowers randomly just because. Make date night a top priority, at least a couple of times a month. Keep doing all the things each other like in the bedroom. In my life, I have learned that these are the keys to a happy sex life relationship. Story number 7. Wife's body changed a little bit. I don't find anything wrong with it, but diastasis recti can be a bitch of a change for the wife. A shock. It is fairly common in unplanned life-saving C-sections. When the C-section is scheduled, the gynecologist gets another doctor who specializes in stitching up the muscles that were cut so mom heals and her body returns to normal. But when that stitching doesn't happen, it is highly likely that new moms will never fully recover. I love my wife. I don't see anything wrong with her. To me, this diastasis recti is a minor scar from her doing something badass for our family, but in her own eyes, she is now the ugliest human on earth, so we haven't had any sex after baby arrived. Between the hectic lifestyle changes and having zero family or friends living at a reasonable distance, we haven't had any help with baby, and we both WFH while caring for baby, so we are beyond busy. Story number 8. Well, a year and a half later, my marriage is on the rocks. I don't like him touching me and have a swell of resentment. Things are tight money-wise. We're strained and stressed. Now step-sibling will be living here full-time. I'm thinking it's the final straw for me. I don't have any love left for him. It started dying after a fight we had a couple months after our son was born. That's when the issues started. I want to leave, but I'm not sure how, and I'm afraid he'll try to take my son from me. That's the only reason I'm still here.